Alright, back on the bench today. Very special edition. This guitar has been the owner's #1 player for about 30 years. The nut slot on the G string is pretty worn out. Every time that he was playing an open chord, anytime he played the open string, it was fretting out. So we're just going to go ahead and fill that in a little bit and refile it, get it nice and level with everything else. Here I'm taping up the fretboard, headstock, and around the nut. Make sure that we don't make a big mess as we fill this in and get this repair underway. Alright, now that it's all masked up, we're going to take a little bit of baking soda, get that applied to that fret slot that was too low. And here in a second, I'm going to go ahead and pack that all in there nice and tight. Make sure that we don't have any issues with it having any voids or anything like that. Make sure that it's going to be a nice solid repair. Alright, a couple more things about this guitar. I was really honored to be trusted with it, since this has been his #1 player for about 30 years now. And it's developed this issue with that G string fretting out on the low notes because that fret slot's has gotten a little worn out. So that's got that string height too low at that end of the guitar, which makes it buzz on those low frets. Building this back up and then filing it down to a more appropriate height is going to make it nice and free. Let the notes ring and let it get back to sounding like the guitar that it always has been for him. So here, just making sure that nothing's kind of spilled over anywhere. Everything looks like it's very contained into the nut. So go ahead and start peeling that tape back. Cleaning up a little bit of that excess dust and powder as we go. Here I can already see that it's way too high. It's just barely under flush with the top of the nut. So very carefully here, taking a little way at a time. And then I'm going to fit that string back down in there and keep checking that height. Obviously we can always fill it back in if it goes too low, but I'd rather just get it right and not have to take the time to fill it back in. It took a couple tries because I was breaking it down a little at a time. And there I'm checking the height relative to the other string, seeing how it feels. Taking just a little bit more off. Alright, here I could be using a little bit longer file stroke, but we're talking thousandths of an inch once you get down close to where you need to be. So I wanted to make sure that I don't go too far and have to kind of start the whole process over again. Here, check it again, the height kind of relative to the other strings, making sure that it's going to feel right as you're playing through it. I did not measure this with with any kind of feeler gauges or anything like that. This one was done more by feel. Since we weren't recutting a whole nut, I just wanted to make sure that everything was lined up and felt nice as you're playing through the guitar. There, I'm trying to add a little bit more angle to the tuning peg to make sure we don't have any sticking and make sure that we don't have any tuning issues. Here again, just a little bit at a time, trying to take a little more of that off and make sure that we're not going too far too fast, and just getting this thing dialed in at exactly the right height. Headstock left the screen, I was just checking it actually in playing position, making sure that this is all going to, kind of line up and play nicely. Still needed to come down just a little bit more. Again, you can see in the amount of times I'm checking it and double checking it, I wanted to make sure that this is just spot on with the rest of the action and make sure that this thing is playing absolutely as well as it can when it leaves the door. Alright, now that we're dialed in, it's pretty much a standard restring and clean up. Again, it's a little dusty because it's been sitting next to the chair getting picked up all the time. But we'll get some new strings on it. Went with the D'Addario EJ15s on this. He likes a nice light string, so we're going to give those a try. And here we are, just taking the old strings off. There, it's a little hard to see, but there I'm checking out some of the wear on the actual fretboard itself. The frets were actually in pretty good shape, but you can actually see a little bit in frame there. Those dark spots in those first couple frets, those are actually some indentions in the fretboard itself, in the wood. And that's just from this guitar being well loved and played a lot, which is great. And once I got this thing back up into fighting shape, I could see why it was a keeper for him. This guitar plays and sounds amazing. just hitting it with a little bit of polish, getting everything shined up nice, getting it cleaned up, ready to go back home. Here, working on the back of the headstock a little bit. Again, this is not a case queen. It's got a little bit of dust here and there, a little bit of tarnish, so it takes a little bit of elbow grease to get this thing all nice and cleaned up the way that I like them to look when they leave here. And moving on to the body, this thing has a super cool flame top on it. Just a gorgeous guitar. It was a joy to work on, joy to get to spend a little bit of time with it after it was done, getting to play it. That's one of the just great things about doing a little bit of this. You get to experience some other people's favorite guitars and bring them back up into condition to make sure that they're ready to go for another, 10, 20, 30 years after you're done with it. Alright, here I'm grabbing a little bit of that deoxit contact cleaner because the customer did state that the electronics were not working well last time he tried to plug it in. It's not something he does often, but I wanted to check it out quick and just make sure that hopefully it would be able to be functioning with just a quick cleaning. It was to a point. If you look down at the end of the fretboard, those last two, what appear to be fret wires, are actually where your pickups are. One of them does function and work now, sounds good. The other one does not at all. So I don't know if that's in the switch or in, kind of that pickup mechanism itself. The customer wasn't concerned about it, so I didn't dig any deeper into it than just what I did cleaning it up. It did sound great plugged in. Wish I would have captured a clip of it. Now here, one other thing, that nut was not actually glued down in any way, so it was just loose when I pulled all the strings off. I'm just using some regular school glue here, just a couple little dabs, and that's all it takes. All you need to do is just kind of hold it in place, have just enough hold so if you pull all the strings off for a restring, a cleaning, something like that, the nut doesn't just fall off. Now, you don't necessarily want to use super glue, wood glue, that kind of thing that's really going to stick that thing on there. That way, if you do need to replace it, if it's not able to be repaired in the manner that we did earlier in this video, it will come off easily without damaging any of the other woodwork or finish or anything like that. Now here again, we're just putting on these nice super light strings. That's what he wanted. I like these myself. So just getting these down into the bridge with those bridge pins. Then we'll get them wound around those tuning pegs and get this thing ready to go and get it back in the player's hands. When he picked it up, he was super happy with how it played, how it sounded, and seeing that smile on his face when he picked it back up again was great. Really glad that he was happy with it. I was happy with how this one came out. Again, I can see why this one was a keeper. It is a fantastic guitar. plays, sounds great, and it is absolutely stunning in person. The pictures and the videos do not do it justice. Just like that, all 6 strings are on it. Bringing them up to pitch, we'll get those ends cleaned up here in a second. And this thing is going to be ready to go back home. Again, it was an honor and a privilege to work on this one. Glad that the owner was happy with how it came out. And if you've made it this far, thanks for stopping by, and there will be more to come. I'll have that headless guitar restring up here pretty soon. That was a lot of fun to get done as well. Thanks again for stopping by, and we'll see you next time I'm on the bench.